Start with South Carolina at Clemson. South Carolina needed a late surge against Clemson to pull this one off. But Lenore's Sellers continuing to find ways to win football games. South Carolina continuing to find ways to win football games. They're playing some of the best football in the country right now, relative to some of the other teams that were thought to be in the college football playoffs just a couple weeks ago. So, CD, what is your thoughts on this game, and then where do you see South Carolina sitting in the college football playoff picture right now?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think they're on the outside looking in. I think they would need a lot of help and probably not going to get it. Fortunately, the head-to-head loss with Alabama in a game which you should have won, right? Like you go back and look at that game, they had plenty of chances to win that, and they didn't. But obviously, a nice win against Clemson,
The LSU unnecessary roughness penalty, that was garbage.
kind of
Absolutely
out of your control.
disgusting.
But going back, LSU again, very very flawed team. Like I think that loss looks a little bit worse today than it did, a couple months ago. But yeah, this is a big win for South Carolina on the road. I mean, so Sellers is unbelievable. He did to Clemson what they have done all year when he has been healthy, and that is be impossible to tackle. Him and Sanders have been awesome. I thought Clemson's wide receivers at times took over the game, and I wanted to see that go continue throughout, and that couldn't happen. I thought they got the best of that South Carolina defense, especially that secondary. But yeah, it was tough. This was an awesome game. It was a rivalry game. It felt like a mini playoff game. Now, Clemson, because this was out of conference, they're still in it technically because they can win the automatic bid by beating SMU thanks to the Miami loss to Syracuse earlier. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think South Carolina's out, but man, oh man, this is a good freaking football team. And I don't think anybody wants to play them. But again, I still thought Clemson probably should have won or could have won very easily,
Mm-hmm.
and they just
Definitely.
didn't. I think it's pretty disappointing for them to go 9-3 after going 8-1 in conference, 7-1 in conference.
Yeah, and they become a potential bid stealer now, right? I mean, because I would think, and now the college football playoff committee has commented on that they're not going to punish teams as heavily in conference championship games if they lose, right? I think injuries, could play a role in certain things. I think, although I think it was different for Florida State because you saw what they had at quarterback and it was garbage. But if SMU loses, right, to Clemson in the conference championship, like you're you can't can you boot them out of the college football playoffs?
SMU, I don't know. I'm very against it. I'm very against punishing teams for playing because if you're the ACC, then what the hell is it for other than just to make money for your conference? Like it, to me, that would be very frustrating because you have a team like Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, teams that had chances to earn their way not only to an at-large bid, but to their conference championship game, the 13th football game. It's not like you're playing against nobody. You're playing against a Clemson team that probably should have beaten one of the hotter teams in the country in South Carolina. No, I think SMU's in no matter what. As long as you don't lose by 50 and Kevin Jennings gets hurt, like I think that's a little different story. But if it plays out like a normal football game and Clemson happens to get a win there, yeah, they both should be in. That's how I feel.
Okay, all right, and then so then in that situation, Clemson becomes a bid stealer and boots out some unfortunate team. So yeah, just great season for South Carolina. I think in both what was Clemson's over and win total at 8.5 this year. Hold on, I got it right here.
I had
It
it
was
at
at 9.
9. Yeah.
It was at 9, and I guess I leaned under in that. I think you leaned over in that situation, so I guess we pushed. It didn't matter. But the South Carolina one is the one that I feel pretty proud of. That was like the one that I was very convicted on that this was going to be a good football team, and it turns out that they were, and had a lot to do with their defense. But then late in the season, it ended up being their offense that kind of helped them play some complementary football. And Lenore's Sellers taking that step was a big deal, and it'll be really interesting to see. Next year you lose a ton on the defensive side of the football, but what Lenore Sellers, if he continues to grow into that role at quarterback, first of all, where do you rank him in terms of SEC quarterbacks? I think you've had an SEC quarterback problem this year for what you thought it was going to be. You thought that Connor Wigman was going to take that step. You thought Nico Amalieva was going to take a bigger step than he did. I don't know. Graham Mertz got hurt. I mean, Carson Beck looked like he kind of regressed. Jackson Dart had some bad weeks. Jackson Arnold looked like a ghost of himself. I mean, just you had some up and down quarterback play in the SEC. So it'll be interesting to see where he stacks up next year against some of those other SEC quarterbacks. But I want to see South Carolina play in the college football playoffs. Not that I'm not sure that they should get in, because I haven't broken down the numbers, so don't go screaming at me, saying like, oh, they should or should not get in, right? I'm just saying I think it'd be interesting to give them a chance because I don't think anyone wants to play against them right now.
Not that D line either.